All right, today we're diving into something pretty fascinating. What if I told you that an ancient text, the Bhagavad Gita, actually holds a super precise blueprint for building the workplace of the future? Yeah, I'm talking about a high-performing, neuro-inclusive workplace ready for the age of AI. And look, this isn't about bringing spirituality into the boardroom, not at all. It's about taking timeless, powerful strategy and applying it to modern business.
So it really all boils down to this one huge question. With AI automating so many of our routine tasks, what's actually left for us humans to do? I mean, what makes you valuable as an employee in this new world? The answer? Well, it's a complete flip from everything we've been taught to value for the past 100 years.
Think about it like this. The old school industrial era, that was all about conformity. Fitting in, not rocking the boat. But the AI era, it rewards the exact opposite. It's all about cognitive differentiation. The value you bring isn't about being a great cultural fit anymore. It's about what unique strengths you bring to the table. That smooth social charm, it's taking a backseat to deep, hardcore analytical thinking. Okay, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at work's new battlefield. Then we'll connect it to that ancient wisdom I mentioned. After that, we'll get into the 4 pillars of this whole framework, look at the actual business case, and wrap up with why this is going to be your next big competitive edge.
All right, let's jump into section 1, work's new battlefield. And I want to be super clear here. This isn't some fluffy HR initiative. We're talking about a fundamental redesign of how value itself is created. And it's not some far-off future thing. It's happening right now.
So what are these skills? Well, it's things like recognizing patterns in super complex systems, that kind of hyper-focused analytical thinking, making these creative leaps no one else sees. This is the stuff that's still uniquely human and incredibly valuable. And AI can crunch numbers all day long, but it can't do this. And here's the kicker. Many neurodivergent professionals are off the charts amazing at these things, but our current corporate systems, they usually filter these very people out.
And why does that filtering happen? It's because we're all making this one critical mistake. We're confusing what makes us comfortable with what actually signals competence. We see someone with high verbal fluency, great social skills who can navigate the politics, and we think, wow, they're competent. But the true competence, the stuff that really moves the needle, is analytical rigor, pattern recognition, and systems thinking. We're basically hiring for charisma when we should be hiring for pure, raw competence.
Okay, so let's move on to section 2. Ancient wisdom, modern strategy. This is where we're going to introduce a really powerful new blueprint for how to think about all of this. So we're calling this the corporate Bhagavad Gita. Now don't get hung up on the name. We're using it as a metaphor for a strategic framework. And it's actually a perfect fit because the original text is all about finding your purpose and taking the right action, especially in the middle of chaos and conflict. It's about taking these timeless principles and using them to totally redesign our corporate systems so that every single mind can contribute at its absolute peak. This right here, this quote, just completely reframes the entire conversation. We've got to stop thinking about this as just accommodation or some kind of charity. It's not. It's about strategic empowerment. These aren't problems that need managing. They're incredible assets just waiting to be unlocked. Okay, so that sounds great, but how do we actually do that? Well, section 3 has the answer. We're talking about the 4 pillars of inclusion. This is where we get into the really practical, actionable stuff.
So there are 4 pillars, and the key is that they all work together as a complete system. You've got Dharma, which is about role alignment, Karma Yoga, which means performance without politics, Dharma Yuddha, or conscious conflict, and finally Loka Sangraha, which is all about leadership as design. Let's break each one down. First up, Dharma. This is all about role alignment. Basically, instead of trying to force everyone into the same cookie-cutter job description, you design the role around their natural cognitive strengths. You build the box around the person, not the other way around. I mean, think about it. If you have an autistic employee who's a genius at spotting patterns, why on earth would you force them into a sales role when their real, incredible value is in optimizing your systems? And this quote just nails the whole idea of Dharma. The goal isn't to fix anybody or change their personality. It's to find what they are uniquely brilliant at and then just amplify that strength. That's where you get those massive performance gains.
Okay, pillar number 2, Karma Yoga. This one tackles a huge problem we see in almost every office. We reward visibility over actual value. You know what I'm talking about. This principle says, nope, we're done with that. We're going to evaluate work based on the quality of the output, on the real substance, not on who's the loudest in meetings or the best at playing political games. It's all about rewarding the deep, meaningful work. Now for pillar 3, and this one might be a little controversial. So many companies think the goal is just total harmony, everybody gets along. But the hard truth is, innovation doesn't die because people disagree. It dies because people are too afraid to disagree.
So the question is, how do you make conflict productive instead of destructive? The answer is structure. Simple things, right? Like circulating agendas way in advance so people can actually process the information. Using clear rules for turn-taking so everyone gets a voice. And this one is so important. Creating a culture where it is normal and expected to challenge ideas, not attack people. When you do that, you turn all that friction into a massive strategic advantage.
Okay, I know what you're thinking. This all sounds great in theory, but does it actually work in the real world? Well, that's what Section 4 is all about, from awareness to architecture. We're going to get into the hard data and the real business case. And let's just get straight to the hard truth here. You can have all the awareness days and diversity panels in the world, but if you don't make real structural changes, it's just symbolic. It doesn't mean anything. We're talking about redesigning the guts of your company, your interview process, your meeting structures, your promotion criteria. Those are the systems that have to change. So what happens when you really redesign the system? Well, let's take a look at a real-world example, JP Morgan Chase. They have a neurodiversity initiative, and what they found was just staggering. In certain roles, their employees on the autism spectrum were a whopping 48% faster than their peers. Yeah, and it gets even crazier. In some cases, those same employees were up to 92% more productive. Let that sink in. These aren't small incremental gains. This is a massive performance multiplier. That is the power of putting the right minds in the right roles. And look, JP Morgan isn't some outlier here. We're seeing this across the board. Big companies like SAP and Microsoft, they've seen pretty similar results. SAP is reporting higher productivity and more innovation. Microsoft saw a big drop in attrition for their specialized engineering roles. The evidence is piling up, and it's crystal clear. This strategy flat out works. Which brings us right to our final section, your next competitive edge. Because at this point, it's really not a question of, should we do this? The real question is, can we honestly afford not to? Look, being kind is great. We should all be kind. But the real driver here, the thing that's going to define the future of work, is intelligence. Building systems that can actually harness every single type of thinking, that isn't just a nice thing to do. It is hands down the single smartest strategic move any organization can make right now. So I want to leave you with a question to take back to your own team, your own organization, and be honest with yourself. Take a really hard look at your processes, your culture, your metrics, everything. Are your systems actually built to find and extract the unique value from every single mind? Or are they still just enforcing an old, outdated model of conformity? Because the answer to that question is going to define your success from here on out.